Good afternoon to you all once again. A few instructions before we start the session. I request all the participants to disable your videos for better connectivity and keep your mics muted. During the session, you could post your queries in the chat box and they would be addressed through the Q&A session. Participants on YouTube could post their queries in the comment section. At the end of the session, the feedback link will be in the comment section. On behalf of the Department of Social Work, St. Joseph's College, I would like to welcome you all for the fourth day of the webinar series on the status of indigenous people in India. The past 3 days of the webinar have resulted in fruitful discussions on scheduled tribes, their welfare, and the atrocities that they face. We also had deliberations on the rights of indigenous people and their importance towards societal development. Yesterday's session focused on the Indian Forest Act, where Mr. Rajesh, a tribal activist from Paliyar community in Kodaikanal, addressed us on the harsh realities faced by the tribes as opposed to what is on paper. For today's session, we have with us Mr. Songashim Rungsung, our alumni, who did his BSW and MSW with us. Mr. Songashim belongs to the Thankul tribe, Ukrul district in Manipur. Knowing him from his undergraduate days, I can say that he is a well-motivated person who has achieved so much in a short span of time. He is a fitness enthusiast who has trained and transformed around 200 people in the last few months. He is also a model and was a finalist of Mr. India 2020. Mr. Songashim has modeled for different international brands and was a top 10 finalist of Mr. Northeast. He has never failed to showcase the culture of his tribe during college programs. I feel proud that my student Songashim is here to address us about his tribe, its uniqueness, and their current situation in Manipur. On behalf of the Department of Social Work and the management of St. Joseph's College, we welcome you, Mr. Songashim. Over to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, Viola ma'am, and thank you so much to the Department of Social Work for giving me the opportunity to talk in front of you all. Ma'am, first of all, should I turn on my video or should I keep it like that?
You can keep it on. You can keep it on so that the participants can see you.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, I hope you all can hear me.
Yes, yes.
Hello, good afternoon to you all. As Viola ma'am has already introduced me, my name is Songashim Rungsung, and I'm from a tribe called Thankul, which is located in the extreme corner of the northeastern side, which is in Manipur, and it's a boundary between Myanmar and Manipur. Well, we have, as we know, tribals are very unique places, unique places, and we have around 380 villages in our own tribe. We are called the Thankul tribe, and during the ancestor time, we are known as the headhunter. But now everything is changed. Since 1890, there was a person from US coming from US called William Pettigrew. He has transformed the whole tribe into Christianity. It was known as the bacon, and we were called as the headhunter. Well, they live by killing each other, I should say, like during the ancestor time. So whoever is the like, how do I say? Whoever is the alpha will dominate the other tribes that way, and whoever is the alpha will dominate the other village as well. In this way, this was our history of our tribe. Well, that is the history of our tribe, and just to talk a little bit about our place now. That was about ancient. Now let's talk about right now during this time. Well, the land and places are owned by the tribe itself, but and the village headman, we call it the village headman, not the king. Yeah, so since there are so many villages, and we call them the village headman and the village panchayats. They are the owner of the land, and in the all the lands are in the hand of the headman, and if they are not allowed to sell out any land to anyone outside from outside the state or outside from the village without the consent of the village headman. And when you talk about the opportunity of tribals in our area, well, as we all know, we have 30% of tribal quota. But then when it comes to my own tribe, there's a lot of politics around, and we didn't get to get 30% of the quota of the opportunity. And there are a lot of problems that is happening around. The road constructions are not good, and like the governments are not so friendly with the tribals out there. Yeah, these are some of the problems that the tribals are facing right now. Apart from that, yes, we also get a lot of opportunity from the government side, and I should say there are a lot of people who is really working on it, and it will take a lot of time. It's not that we are not going to change and things are not going to change, but even though if it is going to change, it's going to take a lot of time, and we hope that very soon there will be a transformation in the whole tribal itself. And since we have, I forgot to mention about the population of the tribe, our tribe. There are around 680,000 population according to 2011. And yes, since there are again a lot of population, employment problem is also there, and the government are still not able to take care of the employment part. Yeah, these are some of the problems that we are facing right now as a Tangkhul tribe. Thank you so much, ma'am. I think that will be done. And if there is any question, any queries, let me know.
Thank you so much, Somashim, for sharing with us about the Tangkhul tribe and the problems that you go through there in Manipur. I would like the participants to post their queries in the chat box, and the participants on YouTube to post their queries on the comment section, and we could address it to Mr. Somashim.
All right, so should I answer right away or all together later on? Bella ma'am, about the education system in their villages. All right, so when it comes to
You could answer right away. Sorry,
Okay.
sorry. Yeah, you could answer.
Yeah, so we have around 380 villages, and when it comes to villages, the education systems are, I wouldn't say not up to that level, but at least there are people who is willing to help. And well, I should say, since I didn't want to say, but let me say about this. Well, there are so many fake certificates and fake professors in our own state, what is the district itself. And when it comes to education, now suppose they get a government job as a professor, and they won't be able to reach the village, but they will hire someone else privately and make them teach the children. That way they teach, but I should say it's not being justice, but at least some way they are trying to teach the others, the children out there. But yeah, that is some of the way people are trying to give education. But I should say it's not a good thing to do in that way. Yeah, but then the education systems are quite fine. I should say it's okay, but not up to that level. Receiving benefits from government. Can you mention a few? Yes, as a student, I got scholarship as a scheduled tribe scholarship every year. This is one of our opportunity, and we also get a lot of opportunity when it comes to competitive examinations, things like that. Yeah, these are some of the opportunities we get, and I'm not sure about whether we get opportunities when it comes to other things like road constructions and things like that. I don't know whether on the way someone have eaten the money or not, but yeah, as of now, I just saw a post on Facebook. The road conditions are really bad out there in our hometown. So when it comes to all this thing, I'm not sure about that. I think we should look after. We should look over that also. Any peculiar culture of your tribe you are proud of? Well, there are so many cultures that we have. Well, and then when it's a we have a lot of cultural dance. I would talk about dance, cultural dance. We call it paychuk. It's a very unique dance. I think even Viola men will be aware of this because I have already shown them how to do it, and it's a very unique dance. It's about there are a lot of dances where it showcases different things. Suppose there's a dance for cultivation, yeah, and there's a dance for cultivation, and there's a dance for happiness. There's a dance for sadness. Or there are different type of dance, and it's very unique. I should say it's one of a peculiar culture in our tribe. How much of our migration is there? There are a lot of out migration from our tribe itself, because since we have very less employment opportunity, I should say more than 30% of the population go out and work in the city. And now because of this pandemic, everyone had gone back home. Now there will be a employment crisis again because of this, since there's no opportunity out there, and everyone had gone back to their own hometown now from the city. Recently, I heard that there are more than 15,000 people has returned from the cities. So that will be a very chaotic situation now in our own hometown, since there's less employment opportunity. Is government has any program for employment? Yeah, we have the NREGA, and I think now that is not functioning anymore, but we used to have that. Apart from that, yes, there are a lot of government employments. Yeah, there are a lot of departments, there are a lot of recruitments. But the thing is that opportunities are taken over by the mainland. I should say mainland from the city, the one from the city, since it doesn't come directly to our tribe. It comes from central to the state. So the state has taken over all the opportunity and giving us very less opportunity. I would like to know about the employment and life skills in that community. Well, a lot of us are farmers. And a lot of them are living through our day-to-day life activities, and they are more of private business instead of government business, government employment. There are a lot of more of private employment. Livelihood, yeah. As I've said, livelihood is all mainly farming and cultivation. How is Naka moment travel? Raju Kilare. I am not sure about what you're saying. Naka moment or movement. We are also known as the Manipuri Naka, because our tribe is also a Naka tribe, and all our tribe is called, is Naka, and separately we are a Tangkhul tribe. So we are a Manipuri Naka. Can you explain about the agriculture of Manipur? Well, there are different types of agriculture, and I'm not sure about the agriculture in the other places. But when it comes to my own land, it's more of wetland. We have wetland as well as dry land. So we have both wet and dry land, and farming. What are the struggle they have faced part of the tribe? As a tribe, I should say we get very less opportunity in different things. So personally, I haven't faced any kind of struggles or things like that, because I haven't done so much of thing right now. But then, yeah, there are a lot of people who have faced because of the uh, education systems itself. The education system are very challenging out there, and even job opportunity is very difficult, very challenging out there. And then when it comes to there's always a war between the tribes and the mainland out there in Manipur as well, and they are not so friendly, I should say. Recently, I had also met with one of a very big incident where there was a war between the mainland, the one from the valley and the one from the tribe. So yeah, we are not so friendly when it comes to all tribal and the mainland. Will you please share the beauty of unity and diversity, and what to say about it being a Tangkhul? All right, so being a Tangkhul, I should say we are very united. We are very united in so many things, even though the cultures are very like, since we have a lot of villages which speaks a lot of dialect, but then we are very united when it comes to doing things together. When, let's say, suppose we have a festival, or we have something which is against something else, then of course we as a whole community come up together and fight against them. But even in between the inside the community itself, there are a lot of uh, what is that, challenges and fights in between the tribes as well. But then, yeah, when it comes to fighting against something else outside the tribe, we are very united, and we make sure everyone take part of it. And just to talk about women in our community, women plays a very important role in our community. We call it Meira Paibi. So women hold torch, where, like, suppose if the community is being attacked, women will come out. All the women will come out. They'll have a torch where it's a handmade, and we light it up. I think a lot of you might have come across that one. It's like a torch where a lot of every household should have that. If there is any kind of fights or any kind of issues happening, women's will be the first one who comes out of the house and hold the torch and block everything, in order to avoid from any kind of fights. So women plays a very important role in our community. What are the development in your village in the recent time? Development in our village, I should say, in my own village, the road construction is really good, because it's connected to a national highway. But when it comes to the whole district, it's different again. So from my village side, the road constructions are really good. And after the coming of NREGA, the situation had become a little bit better. But I think NREGA is also stopped. So yeah, but then yes, road construction has improved in my own village. When it comes to my own village, what made you come to Bangalore? What do you like about this city? How has this city and its people treated you? Well, as a northeastern, yes, I should say in the beginning I was not so comfortable with the people out here. I was being discriminated a lot of times after coming to Bangalore. The reason why I have come to Bangalore is to study and get higher education, since we don't have proper facilities in our own hometown. That's the reason why I have come to Bangalore and have come for higher education. And the problems to talk about, like, what do you like about it? Okay, the people has treated me well now as of now, but in the beginning I was not so satisfied with a lot of people, and I was being discriminated a lot of time. And there are times where people like uh, surrounded me, and they try to bash me up. Things happened like that. And yeah, but after all, after sometimes I get to adapt with the environment. And yes, it's a very good place, and I should say people here are very friendly and very good comparing to the north side.
Okay, Mr. Sangashim?
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. We have a few more questions on YouTube as well,
Okay.
but we would address it towards the end. Is that okay with you?
That's not
Like
an
we'll
issue,
have
ma'am.
the other
That's not an
resource
issue.
person also speaking,
Sure,
and
ma'am.
then
Sure, ma'am.
together we have the Q&A.
Sure,
Okay?
ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
Yeah.
Sure, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Mr. Sangashim, for sharing your experience with us. And towards the end, we will have the Q&A where you could continue answering the questions.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you
Okay,
so
ma'am.
much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
We now move to the next part of our session. We have with us an eminent person, Dr. Bala Gurumurthy. So our department has a long association with Dr. Bala Gurumurthy since the time he was State Nodal Officer, Government of Karnataka. With his support and guidance, we have conducted 2 programs to celebrate World Indigenous Peoples Day in the Hakipeki community. Both were tribal cultural exchange programs where our students from the Northeast tribes of India showcase their art and culture along with learning from the Hakipiki tribal culture. We are privileged that Dr. Bala Gurumurthy is here to address us. On behalf of the Department of Social Work and the management of St. Joseph's College, we welcome you, sir. I would like to invite Ms. Tom C. to introduce our resource person, Dr. Bala Gurumurthy, to you all.
Hello everyone, I'm Tomsy, welcoming each one of you to today's session on behalf of the Department of Social Work, St. Joseph College, Autonomous, Bengaluru. It's my honor to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Balagurumurthy. He hails from Bangalore and now is a principal of Government College in Karnataka. He is president of NTDNT Community Mahasabha. He worked as ex-state nodal officer, Government of Kerala, and ex-regional secretary, Central Academy, Government of India. He is General Secretary of All India NTDNT Rights Forum. And also, he has completed his PhD and awarded with doctorate degree. He is an active member of various movements and also take part in many protests for the welfare of society and has been part of many seminars. He is one person who has been of great help to the department. Today, he is presenting on NTDNT of India, Karnataka, their problems and solutions of government. Sir, we are very happy to have you with us. Before I invite the speaker to share his experience, I'm inviting Professor Rajendra to share a few words. Thank you.
Sir, unmute yourself. You're not heard.
Rajendra, sir? Okay, there seems to be some problem with the network, I think. Dr. Bala Gurumurthy. So you could address the gathering. After that, Rajendra sir could give his concluding remarks.
Hello. Could you hear me?
Sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. We can hear you. We can hear you, sir.
Yeah. Can I go on?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please continue, sir.
Yeah. Good evening to all. Indeed, I'm very happy. I'm very happy to join you all. Because of the technical error, I'm finding problem to enter in. Hello, is it okay? Hello?
Yes, sir, you can
Sir,
continue.
we can hear
Hello?
you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can hear you clearly. You can continue, sir.
Yeah. I'm sorry for the technical delay here happening. I'm not that familiar with the webinar and this technology. Okay. First of all, I congratulate the department for this meaningful program. Indeed, I am very grateful to Professor Rajendra, who has been my very good friend, a well-wisher, and a progressive activist, has been working for all these tribals, nomadic tribes all over, particularly Karnataka. Can I go on? Hello?
Yes,
Hello,
sir.
can I go on?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You're audible. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in 1950, two schedules were formed. One is Schedule 1, other one is Schedule 2. And most of these criminal tribes, ex-criminal tribes, were not included in either in Schedule 1, that is Scheduled Caste list. The other one is ST, Scheduled Tribe list. So they could not take the entry either in this scheduled SC list or in ST list. And in the course of time, in different states, they were put in the OBC list, and most of the other communities you find nowhere, neither in SC, ST, OBC list. That is the fate of nomadic tribes in India. National by some writers like the Bengali writer Danpit Awadi, madam. So because of their efforts, Mahashweta Devi, Bengali writer Mahashweta Devi and Ganesh Devi and Lakshman Gaikwad and some other important activists and writers in the country, they met the Prime Minister then, and as a result, a commission for these unfortunate communities, nomadic and denotified tribes, a commission is formed, and some kind of studies took place on the nomads. And before them, the studies were made by the colonial writers like Edgar Thurston, and later on our K. Singh from Anthropological Survey of India, and we could trace out some kind of information on these communities. And right from the Miller Commission, and so many different commissions were formed in different states, And even then, you don't find a clear clarity of the issue, different issues of the denotified and nomadic tribes. So today I want to I want to talk to you about nomadic tribes, denotified tribes and their status, particularly in Karnataka, and the policies and the government provisions. Please tell me, could you hear me? Can I go on?
Yes,
Can
sir,
I go
we can
on?
hear you.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So as per the National Commission, there were 827 communities were recognized. These NTDNT communities were recognized all over country. And in Karnataka, we have altogether 72 NTDNT communities. In 1990, the first generation students, educators of these communities, they have formed a kind of organization, and they have traced out the details from the different districts, and in turn they are submitting to the government, and where government doesn't have any knowledge about these communities, even the department which are meant for the development of these communities have failed to furnish details about these communities. Basically, British people called these tribes as criminal tribes. It is in 1952, Jawaharlal Nehru denotified these communities and called them DNTs. And then, some open jails were opened, and these communities were put there, and some kind of education is given to them. But in large number, most of the communities, even today, they have not gained the entry into the mainstream. In Karnataka, we have, I told you, 72 nomadic communities, and out of them, 15 falls in scheduled caste, and 8 communities fall in scheduled tribe, and the rest in OBC, and 4 to 5 communities are not in any category. The problem is, the nomadic communities are facing is the main problem of the nomadic communities in general for DNTs and DNTs. The identity crisis means even after gaining the independence after 74 years, these communities could not take any constitutional provisions, constitutional benefits which are guaranteed in the Constitution, just because they are not aware of their identity, and as a result, they have failed to get the constitutional provisions. For example, some communities, their identity is put in scheduled caste, and some synonyms are being placed in OBC and ST. A single community is found in all the categories, but while getting the certificates, identity certificates from the government of Karnataka, they are finding a great difficulty. So as a result, the provisions which are guaranteed for these communities are not these nomadic communities. Could you hear me? Can I go on? Hello, can I go on?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, in just I want to say, we have Dakkaligaya community, which is in scheduled caste. They are untouchable to the untouchables. It means their occupation is begging. They beg only from the untouchable community, that is Madiga community, and not in any other communities. And we have a pig rearing community, Andijo, and we have Shillekata community, those who perform the puppet making community, and besides, they perform other activities also. For example, Shillekata, a community which is in scheduled caste, till 2004, the entire community could not get the certificate in the name of Shillekata, just because they could not send their children to schools, they could not get formal education, and they did not go for any they did not go for the government facilities. They lived in the open tents, and they lived in the they used to go to the villages in disguise, and the Shillekata name is in the scheduled caste, but Kileketa, the people call them in different names. See, nomads are being called in different names locally. The locals call them in different names. And these nomads, they don't make any objections. Whatever the names the locals call them, neither they respond to it, nor they clarify their real identity. See, people call Kilekatas as Kilekatas, and Kilekata is in OBC. And as a result, the caste certificate issuing authorities, they say, see, people call you as Kilekata, and I will not give you Kilekata, which is in scheduled caste. So, as a result, these people, they never protested, and very recently they have organized, and now they are explaining to the government, they are requesting the government. They say, see, anthropologically, we are the scheduled caste community, and we are in the scheduled caste list. Please issue the caste certificates. What issuing a certificate? What government says? You are being enlisted in the OBC community, OBC list, and you'll have to get to OBC community. So what we need is government intervention. So government has to form a separate commission for these nomadic NTD communities, and the nomenclatures, these synonyms have to be separate first. They have to separate. The one more thing I want to come, Channadasar is a community, people call them Dasar. So Dasar is put in OBC. So the caste certificate issuing authorities, government agencies, they issue OBC certificates, whereas their identity is being put in scheduled caste. So just I am giving you a few examples. It means large number of communities, not only in Karnataka, in the entire country, they are facing this identity problem. For scheduled caste people, scheduled caste communities who are organized and who have better organizations, and they have got even commissions. So those commissions frequently they intervene, they settle the issues of these communities. In scheduled tribes, there is a separate department, separate commission, and they have strong organizations. And the tribes, forest tribes, at least they don't have any identity crisis. But somewhat, government benefits, government schemes are reaching. But these unfortunate communities, though they are being put in the scheduled castes, they are not enjoying forget about the enjoying. Even claiming their minimum facilities which are guaranteed for the scheduled castes, they could not get. In scheduled tribes, for example, Akipik community, it is in the scheduled tribe. See, they are not in the forest. I told you, they left the forests long ago. Because when they came out of the forest, they could not take the entry in the mainstream village. Neither they could take entry in the mainstream village, nor they could go back to the forest tribe. They remained as nomadic tribe. They used to live outside of the villages, in the barren lands. They used to put the open tents, plastic tents, and they're pulling their life. This is the picture of the most of the nomadic tribes, not only in Karnataka, in all the states in the entire country. The population of the NTD communities in India is 12 crores. Imagine 12 crores. 10% of the population is leading a miserable life. The problem is, see, the government agencies have failed to identify these communities. Only very recently, the leaders or some kind of the volunteers. For example, I told you, Professor Rajendra, he could organize the snake charmers community, and this Madari, that some communities, like this in all over the country, some agencies, some well-wishers, progressive activists, they're working for these communities. The main problem is, see, now they are demanding for the shelter. Government has to see there, for example, in Karnataka, for the welfare of the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, 30,000 crores amount is, reserved. Out of 30,000 crores, even not 100 crores is reached to these communities, just because they have not been identified. First of all, identity is a big issue. There is a department, social welfare of department. That department and officials of the department, I mean government agencies, they themselves have not visited the colonies of these communities. They say we don't know where these communities live. So this is the problem for these communities. So as a result, now, we have formed the organizations and we are submitting all kinds of details, their settlements and their all their social issues. So many things we have in fact, we could able to convey to the government. And before last year, government has formed a separate cell, a development cell for these communities in Karnataka, that is nomadic and denotified tribes development cell in Karnataka. That's for SC, ST, NTD, NT cell. And they have reserved some 120 crores rupees fund for them. And we could able to trace out the settlements of these communities and a housing, a shelter for these people, the district authorities. They have allocated the lands, they could identify these communities and they have allocated the lands. So now National Commission for these communities in Delhi, they have given the guidelines to the entire country for all the states. They have written a letter to all the states stating that you allow these people to take part in political participation. Give separate priority for these communities. For example, see, they have not taken the entry in the policy making, first of all. Because in certain communities which are dominated, where those communities have better awareness, so they make the policies and very effectively, very significantly, they can gain the benefits. Whereas these communities have not entered, first of all, in the policy makings. See, they could not take the entry in the Gram Panchayat level even, which is the base for the political entry. And now you don't find a single MLC, or MLA, or MP. I told you, in all the policy making levels, it's a total failure because they could not take the entry, and secondly, they cannot compete. They cannot compete with the these strong communities which are in the scheduled caste and in the scheduled tribes. See, Shahu Maharaj, the great social reformer who supported the reservation, he would say the small don't mix up the very weak animals with the strong animals. You put them separately and give them feeding separately. Once he commented this. So these weak communities, in fact, they have been weakened actually by the strong communities. They should be given a separate priority. In fact, we have requested the government of India to create a separate schedule for these communities. In fact, now we have two schedules, that is SC and ST, Schedule 1 and Schedule 2. Now you go for the third schedule and you just, you put only these communities, whoever in the scheduled caste, whoever in the scheduled tribes. I mean, these nomadic communities who are in the scheduled list, the scheduled caste list and scheduled tribes list, you take them out. You put not only in Hindus, you find in Muslims, in Christians also. In Muslims, we have Kaldi Kalandar, and we have snake charmers, we have Darveshi. So even Gisadi, we have Bail Pattar. So what I mean to say, 12 crore population in the country, they are absent to the democracy. We say we have the rich democracy in the world and we have the large population in the world. Ours is a big democratic country, but whereas these communities are so unfortunate just because there is no momentum, there is no concentration. Government has not interfered. Government has not taken any initiative, and government is totally blind at these communities in all the states. of the because of the social history, some kind of momentum has been witnessed. Whereas in North India, it's miserable. Most of the people who die in the severe cold in Delhi or these nomadic communities in Delhi. In Rajasthan, in Punjab, these communities are not being even identified. I told you they are not in scheduled caste, not in scheduled tribes, not in OBC. Imagine, they say, ironically, we are the most advanced communities, we are the most, developed communities, therefore we are not being identified in any lists. This is the sarcasm, this is the irony of the, our government mechanism. So, I want to say one more, this one. We have 50 scheduled tribes in Karnataka. A single community has taken, has swallowed the lion's share of the representation. In other words, one community in Karnataka, is representing with 16 MLAs. 16 MLAs are reserved for the 50 scheduled tribes. But out of 50 tribes, only one tribe is politically has taken up the total political share. The other 49 communities, they have not entered the policy making levels, like Jain Kurba, Kad Kurba, Soliga, Toda, Hakipiki, Siddhis, so many communities, Rajagonda, like so many communities, so many tribes. In scheduled caste, I told you, for example, Dombara, a community which perform acrobatics. They beg in the bus stands. They wander in the, they collect the children, go for the rat picking. I'm not just telling the Agniya state. So, you don't find a single IAS fellow from these communities, neither an IPS fellow, nor a KAS fellow, nor a Gram Panchayat member. So, what should be the further, activism? What should be the role expected from all the, academicians, activists, young researchers?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Could you hear me? Can I go
sir.
on?
Hello, sir.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Hello, can I go on?
Sir, we can hear you, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
now
Yes, sir.
we are requesting government of Karnataka, you kindly, you establish, kindly grant a separate nigama, that is corporation for these communities. For example, there are different corporations for the welfare of the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. Now we are requesting the government, you start a separate corporation for the welfare of these communities. Out of 30,000 crores, the amount which is specially meant for these scheduled castes and scheduled tribes welfare, you reserve at least 1,000 crores for these communities. But unfortunately, there is no political backup. There is no political voice to form the very corporation. But still, the confrontation struggle is going on. We are just, visiting all the districts of the state, and we are giving the awareness for them. We are forming the groups, and we are giving the thoughts of Ambedkar, Baba Sahib Ambedkar, and now at present, some youngsters, they are just organizing in different corners of the state, and they are making representations. And as Baba Sahib rightly said, without political power, without political entry, you cannot get any social justice. So, political power is the master key. So, as a result, we are requesting, so many our well-wishers, our sympathizers, those who could voice in the assembly and in different platforms. So, altogether, now government of Karnataka has given some 40 crores, 80 crores like that out of 30,000 crores. And the bureaucrats, who run the departments, they should show the commitment, they should show the interest. But most of the times, no, they are pressured by the some interferences, whom I should not name. But as researchers, you should know what kind of choking is taking place in the government level for these communities. But when there was a Congress government, when Mr. Siddaramaiah was the chief minister, he was moved to know the issue of the nomadic communities, and he could form. He is the first chief minister in the entire country to start a separate cell for the welfare of these communities. And since he is off, now the government has we have a different government, and still we are requesting this present government to change the cell as a development corporation, and attempts are still going on. But still we are hoping that we will take up the commission for these communities. See, for the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, there are so many provisions. For example, we have self-employment scheme. And those who have the agriculture, they can be given, they can be given the bore wells like Ganga Kalyana. And for shelter, we have Ashraya schemes. And children, they can be sent to Morarji Desai schools and Navodaya schools and the social welfare hostels, which are purely meant for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Of course, in the last 2 years before, a government has issued a separate letter to all the district collectors. This is to give the 10% of admission purely for these nomadic children. And as a result, now in all over the state, children have taken the admissions in the Morarji Desai hostels and in social welfare hostels. Thank God. That has happened. Now at the education level, now we are taking the entry. But at the developments at the different stages, for example, our communities, they are so brilliant. They have the rich traditional knowledge. These communities have the rich traditional knowledge. But they should be recognized. They should be encouraged by financing to run their traditional occupations. For example, I will tell you, the snake charmers, now snake catching is not allowed. They should not catch the snakes, and it's prohibited. See, the communities have the knowledge of this traditional knowledge. If you stop all of a sudden not to perform these things, and what is the alternative? And what is the capacity building? Just I'm giving a small example. So many communities, for example, Bovi community, Waddar community, they were building the dams, they were building the lakes, they were building the tank bunds, tank bunds and all. Now all of a sudden you go for the technology, you go for the engineering, and these people are just merely treated as laborers. Their rich knowledge is totally neglected. Like Lambani community, they have the rich medicinic knowledge. We have a Rajagunda community in Karnataka. Actually, they are migrated from the central India, and most of the communities they're the migrants. Migration is the very beginning of the journey. Like Lambani, Dombara, they came from Rajasthan. This Gondali, Bailpatar, Gisadi, they came from Maharashtra. And this Channadasar, Burgajanyam, Surgar Siddha, they came from Andhra Pradesh. So this journey, all over the country, you find this, the migrants, the migration, and as a result, they belong to the entire country. They are the Vishwamanavas. Now, this Rajagunda community, they have the rich traditional knowledge of the medicine. I think you must have noticed in the roadsides, they put a small kind of tarpaul, and below the tarpaul you find herbs and shrubs. Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We can hear you, sir. Yeah.
So in the mic set, they announce, and they would go to villages, they would go to the towns, they would go to the interstates, they travel even in the train, they sell the herbs and shrubs. All the plants. They're the doctors to even once to the Gonda community. The Gonda community was exiled and these people became nomads, Rajgundas. Now we have developed a kind of prejudice towards these communities, and their knowledge is neglected. Their knowledge is looked down. The traditional knowledge is looked down, and as a result, most of these communities are now they are finding great problem in the occupational mode, because they don't have any other knowledge. They have not been trained up, and they have not been taught any the alternative occupations. So this is the transition the communities are passing in all over the country, particularly in Karnataka. And I told you the only solution, and the major solution is you form a separate corporation for these communities and let the corporation start different, district cells, district offices in each district, so that let them first, categorically let them map these communities. Let them trace out the data. Let them take the data of the communities in the entire country, first of all. The communities have volunteered now. They have given the data, and government, in fact, has better knowledge now. But they're acting. They're pretending as if they're not aware of these communities. And most of the platforms, what these politicians or government people say, we are not aware of these communities. We are not aware of the settlements of these communities. Once, a big person, he was telling, we cannot give the houses for them because they don't stay in the houses. But if you go to the settlements, they cry for their shelter. They say, give a shelter, we live here. We want to send our children to the schools. We want education for our children. Please give some jobs. We'll work. You give some, you kindly market our knowledge, our talent. But in spite of all this, mispropaganda is being carried out that these nomads, they don't stay, they keep on wandering. 80% of these communities are now settled. Settled in the sense, they're settled in a place, in a government, either in a government land or in a private land. Now they're demanding for the shelter, and they're asking, you give us some land. Government land. There's a 30% of the government land is there, and all the rich people, landlords, a boom mafia, jamindari system, they have grabbed the lands, and most of the lands already have been grabbed, and no nomads are they're praying the government, give at least an acre of land for us. We take up our own business and we settle down in these places. And the forest department is troubling a lot, because fishing is not allowed. It's a prohibited. Hunting is not allowed. Most of these communities, they live on hunting. No, hunting is not allowed. And begging is not allowed. Anti-beggary act has come. They have introduced anti-beggary act. So then what is the alternative life left for these communities? So that's why government has to reserve some at least 1,000 crores of these funds out of this SCP, TSP funds in the states. So that's why now National Commission, Government of India has requested all the states to start a separate development corporations for these communities. First of all, to identify their data, identifying these communities and their settlements, and compulsorily sending their children to the schools. I will tell you, when I went to Gulbarga to study a community called Mangaradi, which was an ex-criminal tribe. Most of the days in the morning itself, police people would, they would enter this area, because wherever the chori takes place, theft takes place in Gulbarga, the first suspects are these nomads. And the children, you find them in the Anganwadi school, and they look at their parents through the window. The police, they're pulling their parents to the police station. And the children cry inside the Anganwadis. And the similar thing is a community called Budgajangam. It's a performing, the art performing community. They are the mendicants, in fact, religious beggars. The children of these communities, they take the admissions in different schools just because of the midday meals. They go to the school, primary schools, exactly at 1 o'clock, because that is the time they get the midday meals. And the school teachers, the school authorities, in some schools, they have refused to give the food. because 6 months they did not come to the schools. Where were they 6 months? They were in a different area. Along with their parents, they would just wander. So this is the problem. That's why compulsory education should be there, and some kind of scholarship, some kind of subsidy, or some kind of some honorarium to the parents of these communities should be given, because that would encourage their parents to send their children to the schools. And the status of women is very, very sad. That most of the Devadasi are from these communities, and women's I will tell you, there is a village in Mysore district, around 380 families, and all of them, most of the children, they go to the schools. In the school records, they don't have their father's name. Only they have their mother's name, because the prostitution is there in that entire village. So this is what you find in most of the settlements, most of the settlements in the nomadic communities. So there is the community people are working, and ultimately the government agencies, NGOs, and researchers, and most of the people, most of the academicians, they come to these communities only for the sake of research and to take the PhD degrees on these communities. Once they get the degrees, they forget these communities, and that's the reason the communities, they mock at the researchers and the scholars. So there's a great, the tragedy is our academics or our research works, are not recognized, are not being honored by the government. The bureaucracy is in a different angle, in a different point, and the academic works, research works are in a different point. In spite of all our efforts, in spite of our studies, in spite of giving all the data, ultimately in the policy making level and in the implementation level, there's an absolute failure. It's a total failure. Can you say, you may feel surprised, as if the growth of development, the growth of their all-round development of these communities. I will tell you, 73% of these communities have no shelter, as per the data. So we request the government, you let the Karnataka free from the tents, because most of them live in the tents. They say, everyone should get this house, everyone should get a house, nobody should live in the huts and tents. That is the speech they make, that is the, in the pamphlets, in the agendas, in their manifestations they make. But in reality, it's a total failure. Because when I was a nodal officer there, I could visit all the parts of the country, and I requested all the deputy collectors, and some deputy collectors who have a different background, who have a different insights, who could really feel their spirit of patriotism. What is the reality? What should be done exactly? What should be the attitude for the developing the country or working for the country is working for these unfortunate marginalized communities. So those deputy collectors, they identified the lands, for example, in Tumkur, in Gulbarga, in Raichur, because of the so progressive deputy collectors who could really thrive for these communities, have identified the lands, nearly 20 acres and 15 acres and 10 acres, and they have given this even Akkupatra, that is the certificates for the householder. Whereas in other districts, these bureaucrats, deputy collectors, they did not meet. They were not ready to meet even the representatives of these nomadic communities. They looked down these communities, and they were just after the politicians. They were after the strong voice. They were after the the powerful minds. Whereas very few deputy DCs, district collectors, they voluntarily worked for these communities. I wish to say, there was an officer, I need not to tell him, he took interest in such a way, in the very early morning he would go to the settlement, he called the entire district administration, he said 800 houses to be built for these communities, and he personally supervised for 3 months, and houses were ready by 3 months, And all these people, they thanked him. They were in tears, and that has happened in Bellary by Arsha Gupta, a very radical DC. So our, this British clerks, I mean to say, this clerical attitude of the bureaucracy is in such a thing, building the country or developing the marginalized people, especially scheduled tribes, scheduled castes. Even in OBCs, you find these nomads. And so I wish to say there have been commissions for these communities. These commissions have studied these communities, and they suggested the government to avoid the identity crisis. See, there is a lot of reputation of the communities. For example, in Karnataka, in OBC, in that to category 1, there are 49 nomadic communities are being traced out. 49 nomadic communities in OBC category 1 list. Out of 41, only 13 communities are genuine. And minus 13, all the rest are the reputations or the synonyms or the wrong synonyms which are being called by the people. I mean to say, I told you, the best thing is Sindolu. They beat their backs by the ropes. Jirbur something. You might have noticed in the bus stands. They beat their own backs by the rope. They are called Sindolu. Even, you don't find a even 10th standard student in that community whose population is 3,000 in Karnataka. Sindolu in scheduled caste and Durgamurgi is in OBC. The caste certificate issuing authority, Tashidar, you would say, you come to the department, you come to the office with all the documents, whether his father records, his children's school records, his, local some evidences. See, first of all, these people are not connected to the land itself. They are not the owners of the land. They don't have any relation to the land itself. So when they don't have a relation with the land, how could you find the documents? So these communities have no documents at all. Documentless communities. Whereas our civilized community, so-called civilized community now, they speak all legal terms, they demand for the documents. No, the major problem is these communities have no documents. If you don't give the documents, you don't get any house, you don't get any government benefits, even you don't get job, or you don't get any government facilities which are purely meant for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, I would say. So,
hello, sir.
And more.
Hello, sir. Can you take another 5 more minutes to conclude? Sorry to disturb you.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
So, the status of nomadic communities in all over the country is miserable. You cannot imagine. So, the government of India has to form a separate third schedule and separate department and separate development board for these communities. And we are being told that already some kind of process is taking place in New Delhi by the government of India. And whereas in all other states, they should show the kind of interest to develop these communities. They should make particular policies. First of all, they should be given houses. First of all, they should stay in they should get the settlements. They should take the housing. Secondly, compulsory education to the children, and their identity crisis should be resolved. If you don't resolve the identity crisis, they should know to which category they belong, first of all. See, there are anthropologists, there are sociologists who can help, who can submit the report to the district authorities, provided they request these anthropologists. See, we don't know this community, they are staying in this place, you submit a report. An anthropologist can study that community, and they can help the district administration or the even state department. But they are not doing this. Why they are not doing this? They are busy with serving the settled communities, settled people who are already who are civilized, who are enjoying the civic communities at present. Whereas these communities, just because they are a total failure in representing the policy making bodies, and as a result, No policy is being framed for these communities. Only sympathizers there and here, they are voicing for these communities. In spite of it, the political system is is not showing any kind of interest, and that is a tragedy. Not only tragedy, it's a betrayal, total betrayal for these communities. So I need to come with the data. I need to come with lots of photographies, even documentaries, so I can explain the very state. Even today, it is, you shed tears looking at the very their living social miserably. So we categorize, we divide them into different platforms. Some nomadic communities are still today, they make a living on hunting, and some are making on a begging, and some are, they make a living on different activities, like labor, some construction laborers, and fishing people, and agriculture laborers. Gradually a kind of, crawling, a kind of transition is taking place. But as a whole, it is a curse for the, our country, curse for the democracy. And, they have been betrayed. They have been pushed back. Whereas there's a social mobility forward, but whereas, in other forward mobility is there, social mobility, the kind of horizontal mobility is there. Whereas in the case of nomads, they are pushed towards backside. It is quite opposite to the very status. So, with these words, being a nomad, I myself am born in a nomadic community. I'm the first graduate from my community, and we could write, we could speak, we could organize our own people, and we are taking the interaction with the our well-wishers, our sympathizers. Either they could be academicians, they could be activists, they could be writers. There could be educationists, there could be youngsters. So ultimately, we anticipate the help and involvement from all these sections to empower these nomadic communities. We call them. We have nomadic communities in the sense we have denotified tribes, and we have semi-nomadics. And we have pastoral nomads. Shepherd, those who take the sheep on grazing, that shepherd nomads. You find that like Rabari in Rajasthan, in some Himachal Pradesh, even in Jammu Kashmir. So altogether, the government should call the leaders of the country. They should sit along with academicians, researchers, policymakers, and make the policies for the welfare of the NTs and DNTs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Balaguru Murthy. I'm sorry that I had to stop you due to want of time, but it was very informative, and I could see on the chat box as well, a lot of positive comments have come inside. Thank you. Something that really surprises me is the fact that, you keep yourself engaged in a lot of activities and a lot of, protests. And not only that, even as a public servant, I see you openly challenging the government, which is something that I always like about you. Thank you for joining us for today. Now I would invite Professor Rajendra to give his remarks.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't actually come in the meeting message. Okay, Dr. Balaguru Murthy is an encyclopedia. Himself is from that community. He knows all that what is happening. He deliberately went to talk to all of us, basically to get to know the realities, ground realities. And since he is also representing itself in different forums, with the community forums, and the academic forums, and the officials forums, and the bureaucratic forums, he knows all that what is happening. So it is in this context, when we requested him to come and share, I think some the kind of deep experiences, knowledge, and also the kind of deprivations that we actually respond to the fellow citizens. They are also fellow citizens. In what way we can respond? It's basically looking at these issues. And he said, while talking, he said that is people. It's almost 10% of the total population. They are deprived of even citizenship testing and identity. So it is in this context, all of us, all citizens, fellow human beings, fellow citizens will have to actually pick up this issue, conduct studies, and support these communities also to come up in life. The important thing that while congratulating Balgur Murthy, we are there with you, sir. And
Thank you, sir.
our
Thank you.
college
Thank
and
you,
our
sir.
department, what we can do is that we can actually work with you to conduct the research studies on the living conditions. And we already know that we have start and on an experimental basis, we can actually work towards getting identity first. The identity will ensure all other success. I think we can do that. So is accepting our invitation to share your experiences. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for thank you, Professor Rajendra, for your wonderful words as well. Now, the floor is open for discussion. I would request Ms. Deekshita to read the questions from the chat box. And
Yes, sir. Thank
Mr.
you.
Matthew from YouTube shall post the questions from the comment section there. Please note that the feedback forms shall be posted now in some time, and participants can start filling that as well. Over to you, Deekshita.
Yes, sir.
Deekshita, are you able to see?
Sir, there's no question, but there's a compliment for sir.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing a very useful information. And thanks SJC for organizing this session and eagerly waiting for tomorrow's session.
Okay. Yeah. Is that all, Deekshita?
Yes, sir. We haven't received any questions.
All right. Fine. From the YouTube section, are there any question?
No, sir.
Not yet. Okay, fine. I think we're also ahead of time. We're also ahead of time. It's 4:30 already, so it's time for concluding. But I was actually joining halfway through, and I was able to listen to it, and I'm very happy that my beloved student, Mr. Songashem, as well as Dr. Balagurumurthy, one of our benefactor to the department, both of them really did justice to what they were called for. Thank you so much for coming. I would now invite Ms. Femina Vadasheri to propose the vote of thanks. Femina?
Yes, sir. Yeah. A very good evening to one and all. I'm elated to propose.
Femina, can you be a bit louder?
Yeah. A very good evening to one and all. I'm elated to propose the vote of thanks for day 4 of our webinar series titled The Status of Indigenous Community in India. First and foremost, I would like to thank Dr. Balagurumurthy, Principal of Government College, Karnataka, for sharing his immense knowledge on the theme NT and DNT of Karnataka and their problems as well as solutions addressed by government with us. Sir, you highlighted
Thank
the
you. Thank you.
Sir, you highlighted the atrocities faced by the untouchables and problems of the SC and ST communities. You also spoke of the importance of nomadic tribes and government provisions towards the development in Karnataka. Something that I shall carry for my professional learning is that the fact that as a social worker, we have a long way to go in providing welfare to the tribal communities in its true sense. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you for sharing your immense knowledge with a wider audience today. Thank you, sir. I would like to thank our own alumni, Mr. Songashim, who threw insights on his own tribal community, its culture, and the problems that they face in Manipur. It was enlightening to know some of the peculiar traditions of your tribe. Thank you, Mr. Songashim. I would like to thank Professor Rajendra Vaije for sharing his expertise through the concluding remarks. I would also like to thank all the participants, faculty, our students, friends from the department and other departments. I would also like to thank our Father Rector, Fiber De Silva SJ, the Principal, Father Victor Lobe SJ, and our Vice Principal, Dr. Rabi Akiba, and everyone who made this event possible. Before I would conclude, I request all the participants to fill the feedback form, the link for which is sent on the chat box before you leave. Thank you once again. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Femina, for the vote of thanks. Today, we were a bit delayed in sending the feedback forms. I would request all the participants to fill it before you leave because we close it in another 10 minutes. So I would recommend all the participants to fill the feedback forms and then leave for the day. Thank you for patiently listening to us. Thank you once again. Have a very good evening. Live streaming. Okay.